The cheating wife thought she could outsmart her husband, but his brilliant revenge proved otherwise. They had left New York 2 hours ago Friday afternoon, and they still had an hour's drive before they got home. They had just dropped off their only child, Lisa, at her college campus where she was beginning her studies. Nancy glanced over at her husband, Bill, who was driving their Ford Transit because they needed to transport Lisa's belongings. Time really flies, she thought. It seems like only yesterday that she found out she was pregnant on Lisa's high school graduation day. Bill was still in college studying to be an engineer. Both sets of parents were supportive. They knew each other well and were aware of their children's love. After the baby was born, she stayed with her parents and they tied the knot when Bill finished his studies. The stay-at-home mom watched her husband rise from junior engineer to owning his own HVAC business in 10 years, his hard work paying off with big contracts with construction companies. Bill's dedication to work and family never wavered. "The house won't be the same without her," Bill said with a hint of sadness. "Yes, she's our princess and deserves the best," Bill remarked. "Have you noticed how she's been acting lately? She treats me horribly when you're around. She sticks to you like glue. Sometimes she even makes fun of me, and when you're not here, she locks herself in her room and avoids me completely. Oh, in New York, she's just a kid. Senior year of high school is tough, you know. She was under so much pressure trying to get into Columbia University. Try to cut her some slack." "I get it, Bill, but have you seen the way she looks at me when we're in the same room? Do you remember that incident 2 months ago when she came at me with a knife while I was sitting on the couch? I thought she was going to hurt me. I saw pure hatred in her eyes." "You're imagining things, Nancy." Bill. Nancy fell silent, not wanting to escalate the argument further, not wanting Bill to get angry. Not now. Taking out her phone, she sent a text message, "We'll be there in 30 minutes. A minute later her phone beeped. "Is it from Lisa?" Bill inquired. "No, it's Betty. How's she doing with Paul?" She should have known it wasn't easy being married to a sheriff. She should have thought twice before tying the knot again. Nancy remained silent. Hoping Bill would keep his cool until they got home, she leaned against the window and prayed they were there. By the time Bill pulled into his driveway, he saw a sheriff's car parked in front of the garage. He parked behind it and Paul, along with his assistant, stepped out to greet him. "What's going on?" "What's going on?" Bill asked, confused, while at the same time Nancy hurried to stand behind the assistant, which did not escape Bill's notice. "This is the part of my job I hate the most," the sheriff said, handing Bill a manila envelope. "William Thompson, you've been served." "Paul, is this some kind of joke, Bill?" he asked, his hand shaking as he took the envelope. He turned to Nancy, but she couldn't meet his gaze. "Why, Nancy, what have I done?" "Bill, it's best if you leave," Paul said. "Get a lawyer and work on your divorce. There's also a restraining order. You can't be near Nancy or come within 500 feet of her." "Paul, last Sunday, you and Betty were at our barbecue for Lisa's farewell," Bill said, his voice rising. "You both knew what was going on. You came, ate, wished Lisa well, and left with a smile. That's what I call hypocrisy, Bill. Please try to understand what I'm supposed to understand, Paul." "That you're an idiot," Bill shouted, "and you, Nancy, you betrayed me. If you didn't love me anymore, you should have just told me. I would have agreed to a peaceful divorce. The restraining order is already in place. It's best for you to leave now," Paul said, trying to stay calm. Bill stomped. "I need my stuff. I hope you're not going to be an idiot and stop me from going into my house to get my stuff." He took out his house key and walked to the front door. "Your key won't work," Paul said, pulling another set of keys out of his pocket and handing them to his assistant. "You seem to have thought of everything, or was it Betty's idea?" Bill accused her. "She probably arranged for a locksmith while we were gone, am I right?" He just nodded to his assistant, who showed Bill into the house and stood by while he packed 2 suitcases. "Don't worry," Paul reassured Nancy. "I'll have my boys keep an eye on the place. It's not safe for you to be here alone for a while. Bill's really upset and he might do something rash out of anger." "I'll stay here. I'll call a friend to come stay with me for the weekend." Nancy said yes. "A friend," Paul mumbled as Bill brought the suitcases out and put them in the back of the van. The assistant gave Nancy the keys. Bill opened the envelope and started to read the divorce papers. "Bill, you got your stuff. It's time to go," Paul instructed. "Hold on, this woman wants half of my business, half of our savings, the house, her car and monthly alimony. She's trying to take me to the cleaners," Bill yelled angrily. "Bill, if you don't leave, I'll have to arrest you," Paul warned, reaching for handcuffs. "No need for handcuffs, Paul. I'll sign the papers now and get out of here," Bill said, grabbing a pen and signing the papers. "Can you witness this and give me my copy?" Nancy smiled, feeling lucky, getting everything she wanted and finally free of her husband and daughter. Paul signed as a witness and handed Bill his copy. Bill got into his van. "Who is he? How long have you been with him?" Bill angrily demanded. "Get inside and lock the door," Paul instructed Nancy before approaching Bill's van. His assistant escorted Nancy inside. Don't do anything stupid, think of Lisa, Paul advised Bill. I made a mistake marrying that witch, Bill shouted as he started the engine. She chose divorce because she knew I wouldn't accept an open marriage like you. What open marriage? Paul asked, shocked. Don't act innocent, Paul, it's common knowledge, Bill retorted. What are you saying? Paul's voice rose. Come on, Paul, we all know when you work nights, your brother Tom keeps your bed warm. Are you trying to turn me against my brother, you idiot? Oh, man, she's cheating on you. Nancy poured herself a glass of wine and stood in front of Pagnol's masterpiece, the train station, worth over $100,000. He left it here, his loss, she thought with a wicked smile, picking up her phone and dialing a number from her speed dial. Come on, Jason, answer your damn phone, Nancy yelled in frustration before hanging up. He was supposed to come right after work, she muttered to herself, taking a seat and sipping her wine. They exchanged numbers, and the next day she invited him over during his lunch break. He came and rocked her world, leaving her feeling like she'd had a wild night. She couldn't deny the thrill of his energy compared to Bill's busyness. Bill, always tired from work, spent his nights helping Lisa with her homework before collapsing into bed, leaving Nancy unsatisfied. Frustrated, she threw the phone on the couch and turned on the TV, but her mind could not focus. She decided to take a shower, recalling the intense, faint old memory of Jason indulging her forbidden desires. That her pleasures belonged to him alone, with a spare key to his apartment, that she would sometimes clean while he was at work, shower him with gifts, and even let him drive her BMW. Oh God, I need him right now, I'm so turned on, I need him to pleasure me, Nancy muttered to herself, trying to remember the last time she'd had sex with Jason. She tried to remember the last time she had been intimate with Bill, but she couldn't remember if it had been 3 months, 6 months, or even longer. It didn't matter, she had her young lover, a real man who could satisfy her desires, they could be together without fear. Now she was free, and he was going to move in with her that night. After her shower, Nancy returned to the living room, grabbed her cell phone, and cursed again. Where are you, Jason? Why won't you answer the damn phone? Frustrated, she went to the kitchen and made herself a light supper. Damn it, I can't leave the house, or I would have gone to his place. Sheriff Paul Anderson finished off his wife with a shot to the head and then drove to his brother's workplace where he shot him 5 times. Both the wife and the brother are dead, the newsreader reported. Nancy's turned off the TV and sat down in shock. Oh Betty, I warned you to be careful, she cried. That night she couldn't sleep. It was the first time she felt truly alone. Her husband was gone, her lover unreachable, her best friend dead, her daughter distant, and her parents deceased. The only one left was her sister, who lived 300 miles away with her husband Tom. Saturday passed with still no word from Jason. She felt both anxious and frustrated. He could at least leave a message to let me know what's going on, Nancy repeated in her mind. Sunday morning she decided to go to Jason's apartment. As soon as she entered she felt something was wrong. The walls were bare, electronics were missing, and his closet and bathroom were empty. She collapsed on the bed. He's gone, he left without a word, Nancy cried. How could he do that? She left the apartment and drove to the department store, hoping to find Jason at work. Instead, she met one of his employees, who told her that Jason had asked to leave work on Friday morning. Nancy walked to her car, tears streaming down her face. Why would he do this to me? She sobbed on the way home. She stopped at a gas station and was shocked to find that both her credit and debit cards had been declined. On Monday morning, she went to the bank and spoke to the manager and was shocked to learn that there was less than $5 left in their joint account. Mrs. Thompson, your husband went to the bank last Friday and closed your joint credit card, the manager explained. He also informed us of your divorce and that he would no longer be responsible for the mortgage on the house or your car. That's a mistake. My car was paid off and the mortgage on the house should have been paid, Nancy said, confused. On the house for your daughter's university fees, the manager replied, but why is there no money in my account? Nancy asked, your account has been debited to pay the monthly mortgage and there have been no deposits for the last 3 months. Nancy inquired, unfortunately, Mrs. Thompson, I cannot discuss Mr. Thompson's account or business matters with you, but if you do not make the upcoming mortgage payment, your house and car could be repossessed, but I don't have a job, so I suggest you discuss this with your attorney. Later, she checked the safe deposit box she shared with her husband. Only her jewelry was left. She took it all and put it in her purse outside the bank. She tried to call Bill on his cell phone, but it was out of service. Perplexed, she called his work number, but it just kept ringing. Frustrated, she dialed Lisa's number. What do you want? which Lisa snapped angrily. Is that how you talk to your mother? Nancy asked, shocked. How else should I talk to you? Lisa retorted. You're the worst. You dumped Dad like he meant nothing. I'm done with you. Don't call me again. I'm changing my number. Then the line went dead. Nancy sat in her car, stunned, holding her hand. In her car, stunned, gripping the steering wheel, her thoughts raced as she tried to understand why Jason had left without a word, wondering where her plan had gone wrong. She called her lawyer and made an appointment for late afternoon. After your call this morning, Mrs. Thompson, we looked into your husband's company. Her lawyer informed her that he had filed for bankruptcy last Thursday, before he was served by you. And what about the car and the mortgage? Last week he used your house as collateral for a loan again before he was served with process on the car, and when you signed the title papers, you also signed for a loan in your name. That can't be right, Nancy cried. Mrs. Thompson, I have a personal question. Do you think your husband knew he was being served? Nancy replied, looking thoughtful. He never saw it coming. She took a deep breath. So, if I understand correctly, I won't get a penny from my husband's company, I have no money in the bank, and my car and house will be taken away from me? I'm afraid so. Is there any way we can make him pay the mortgage? At least his company was his only source of income. Now that it's gone, he's penniless. Once he finds a job, we can make him pay alimony. We had some investment certificates, but I couldn't find them in our safe deposit box. We'll check when he cashed them in. One thing, Mrs. Thompson, these extra services will come at an additional cost. How would you cover the expenses? Nancy hadn't considered the financial aspect, but then she smiled. I have a valuable painting. Great. Get the money and write us a check so we can get started. No problem. I'll call you soon. One more thing, Mrs. Thompson, in the worst-case scenario, you should be prepared to leave your home. I wanted to keep you, but because of my husband, we have to part ways, she said to the painting. Then she called her sister. Hey, sis, I need a favor. You know I'll do anything for you. Nancy, Bill and I are divorced. Is this some kind of a joke? No, sis, it's complicated. I need a place to stay temporarily. Can I stay in your guest room? I'll explain everything when we meet. What about Lisa? How's she taking it? She's definitely Daddy's girl. I'm the one who gets the blame. Is there any chance you two can work things out, maybe see a counselor? I doubt it. I'm really sorry. There's no problem on my end. I don't think Tom would mind, and our daughter would be thrilled to have you. Thanks, sis. I'll let you know when I'll be there. Nancy ended the call on Tuesday. Nancy visited a jeweler to have her jewelry appraised. To her surprise, she was told that all of her pieces were gold-plated copper and low quality. I'm curious about the value of my Pagnol painting, the train station, Nancy inquired. The appraiser carefully examined every detail of the painting. The train station is considered PGN's masterpiece. He placed the painting on an easel and illuminated it with a spotlight, then picked up a magnifying glass and began to inspect it closely. After a few minutes, he chuckled. Is something wrong? Nancy asked, puzzled. Wait, let me show you something. The appraiser retrieved his laptop. His laptop was set up on a nearby table, and with a few keystrokes he brought up a web page. He brought up a picture of the train station on the screen, and zoomed in on the lower left corner. You see here, a man and a little girl are standing on the platform, watching a woman walk to the train with her back to them. The man looks very sad and the little girl is crying. I understand what Nancy felt, a little confused. Now look at the same scene in your painting. The man gave Nancy the magnifying glass. Nancy quickly looked at the bottom left corner and felt dizzy. In your painting both the man and the little girl are laughing and pointing at the woman as if they were telling her off. Yes, I'm sorry, but it's a pretty good fake. Oh my God. Nancy grabbed a chair and sank into it, feeling completely defeated. I can give you $200. I just want to hang it up for my friends and clients to have a good laugh. Nancy accepted the offer and left feeling shattered. And left feeling crushed. Her phone rang and she saw it was her sister calling him. Sis, Nancy said, trying to hide her misery. Don't call me sis, you witch. An angry voice shouted at her. What? Why? Tom got an email from some stranger sent to everyone we know. It's a link to a website. It's got videos of you with some guy. Dated from a year ago to last week. How could you do this, Nancy? First you did it in our bed and in some cheap motel room. The voice was furious. I have to explain. You don't need to. You're disgusting. Tom doesn't want you near us. He says you'll ruin me and our daughter. We don't want you here. Go to your lover. You. The call ended abruptly. Oh my God. The call ended abruptly. Oh my God, they found out. They've known all along. Nana's face twisted in horror. What am I going to do now? She panicked. Everyone knows, the whole town. I have to get out of here, far away. 5 years later, Bill sat in the front row of the church reflecting on the morning's phone call. He kept it to himself. He didn't want to overshadow the not wanting to overshadow the special occasion. He had just walked Lisa down the aisle. He glanced at the couple at the altar. He watched his daughter say, "I do," to her college sweetheart. His mind flashed back to the day Lisa called him in tears. He remembered sitting in his office when her frantic voice came through. "Daddy, please come home," she sobbed. "What's wrong, sweetheart? Why are you crying?" Bill asked, taking a step back. "Just come home, Daddy, I'm waiting outside our house," she pleaded urgently. "Why outside? What's wrong? Should I call your mother?" Bill's mind raced with worry. "No, don't call her, just hurry, Daddy," Lisa insisted. "I'm on my way." "Honey." As he drove to his house, Bill became increasingly anxious, all sorts of thoughts running through his mind. Why wasn't his daughter at school? Why was she outside the house and not inside? Why didn't she want him to call Nancy? Was she hurt? Suddenly he slammed on the brakes with a squeal of tires. He was going to run a red light. He was going to run a red light. Stay calm, he told himself. He knew Lisa had been working on a project late the day before. He had even helped her and given her some ideas. They put it all into a PowerPoint file and saved it on a flash drive. Lisa was waiting a block down the street. Bill stopped the car and she jumped in. "Please don't go to the house, Dad." "Okay Lisa, tell me what's going on," Bill said, shutting off the engine. "I forgot my flash drive this morning when I was rushing to school. I got special permission to go home during lunch. I found an old Honda in our driveway. I went inside the house and heard strange noises coming from your room. I quietly walked up the stairs and peeked inside. The door wasn't completely closed." Lisa started to cry. "Okay honey, breathe in," Bill said in a soothing voice. He stroked her back. "Take your time. I saw a man. They were both naked. They had proximity." "Dad, she's cheating on us," Lisa sobbed. Bill sat there in shock. He realized his 17-year-old son was cheating on him. "Yeah, are you sure about what you saw?" He turned to face her. "I recorded it on my phone." She used her phone to record it and then she showed it to her dad. Bill's world came to a screeching halt as he heard Nancy moaning. "Dad, please get her out of the house. I don't want to see her anymore. She's not my mom. My real mom wouldn't do things like that. My real mom wouldn't do something like this. I have to think about it." "What's there to think about? Just get her out." "It's not easy, honey. There are legal steps we have to take." "Tell me, Dad. Do you still want to be with her? Do you still want to sleep with her? I don't condone cheating, but we have to understand why she did it. If it's a one-time thing, or if it's been going on for a long time." "If it's a one-time thing or if it's been going on for a while, here he comes." Lisa pointed to the Honda driving away from the house and turned away from them. Leighton followed. Bill started the engine. They followed the Honda to the store where they spotted the guy putting on his work jacket as he left his car in the parking lot and walked toward the employee entrance. "He works here. He looks pretty young," Bill remarked. "Age doesn't matter to me," Lisa replied, snapping a few pictures of the guy in his car. "We've got one thing figured out. So honey, I'm gonna drop you off at school, then I'm gonna swing back home, grab your flash drive and bring it to you when I talk to your mom, check." "Not my mom," Lisa cut in, her voice sharp. "I'm going to tell Nancy that you called me and wanted me to bring it over. I don't want you to face her alone, not now, not ever." "I get it, but why?" "Because I don't want her to know that we're onto her. I don't want you to accidentally let the cat out of the bag in your anger." "What's your plan?" "Your plan? I want to be involved in everything you do. I need to be kept in the loop. Promise. I'm going to install security cameras in our house." "Sure thing, princess. I promise to keep you updated. I love you, Dad." Lisa hugged Bill. "I love you too. Now take me to school and hurry back with the USB. My class starts soon." Bill pulled into the driveway. And entered the house. "Honey, I'm home." Nancy rushed out of the bedroom looking surprised. "Oh Bill, it's you. Who else were you expecting?" He locked eyes with Nancy. "I wasn't expecting you back so soon." Lisa called. "She forgot her flash drive. I need to bring it to her." He approached Nancy and caught a whiff of intimacy. "How about a quickie?" "A quickie? I'm a little tired from cleaning and I'm all sweaty. You wouldn't enjoy it. Plus you have to get Lisa her USB. You're right at work." Bill searched the internet for the best surveillance gadgets and cell phone monitoring software. Later he went to an electronics store and got everything he needed. He made a firm decision. He would not touch his wife from that day on. True to his word, he shared everything with Lisa. Over the next 3 months he gathered a lot of information. He learned all about NY's lover, Jason White. Bill discovered that she even had a spare key. He witnessed Jason taking all of her innocence. He also overheard Nancy and her friend Betty sharing all of their secrets, including Betty's affair with NY's brother-in-law. One Saturday, Bill found the spare key hidden in NY's purse. He rushed to the mall and had a copy made. The next week he went to Jason's apartment. It was in a rundown part of town with no security cameras and the main entrance was left unlocked inside. He installed small hidden cameras powered by long-life lithium button cells. He also found all the expensive items that Nancy had bought for Jason. Bill devised a plan to end his relationship with Nancy while doing them both considerable harm. He hired a goldsmith to make replicas of all of Nancy's jewelry, which turned out to be gold-plated copper. Bill contacted his childhood friend Steve, who worked as a corporate lawyer. After Steve explained his plan, Steve set up a meeting. A few days later Bill met with Steve and his cousin Linda, a CPA, who was highly skilled in her profession. He was straight with them. He planned to legally dismantle his company and then run it from afar. His ultimate goal was to have Lisa buy back the company in a few years. Bill began meeting with Linda regularly, either at her office or for lunch. Linda, a widow whose husband had been killed in a car accident, had a 10-year-old son, who was in his 10th year of marriage. Year-old Linda, a widow whose husband had died in an accident, had a 10-year-old son and had not dated since her husband's death. Over time, a friendship developed between them. One evening, Bill invited Linda to a movie, which she accepted. That same night, Lisa stayed over at a friend's house while Bill pretended to work late. Bill parked his car in Linda's driveway and thanked her for agreeing to come. "This is the first time I've been on a date since my husband died," she said. "I understand. I hope you had a good time." Bill replied, "I did. Can we go out again sometime when you're free? We work together and you're still married." Married. Linda reminded him that she had kissed Bill on the cheek. "Let's take things one step at a time." With that she went to her house. Bill urged Nancy to change her car, but she was a little reluctant because she liked her Lexus. But when he suggested that driving a BMW convertible would make her look younger, she agreed enthusiastically. Since the Lexus was paid off, Bill sold it and got cash for it. Then he secured a car loan for the BMW and put everything in Nancy's name. When she signed the paperwork she thought it was just the title deed. A few weeks later, Bill noticed that when Nancy went to the bathroom after making love to Jason, Jason would leave the bedroom with no clothes on and go to Lisa's room. He told Lisa about this and she was very upset, so they decided to put a camera in her room. Bill wasn't surprised when he overheard Jason talking Nancy into divorcing him and taking everything he had, but what the couple didn't realize was that Bill was already ahead of them. He knew that Nancy often let Jason drive the BMW and even get close to her in the back seat. He also knew that if Nancy consulted a divorce lawyer recommended by Paul, and he knew the lawyer would investigate his company and assets. The next day, he filed for bankruptcy, timing it so that Betty would change the locks on their house while they were in New York during the barbecue the weekend before Lisa left for college. Both Bill and Lisa played their roles. Paul and Betty acted as if nothing was wrong, even helping Paul grill meat. No one would suspect they were plotting against them on Friday morning while Nancy was in the bathroom. Bill grabbed her phone and sent a message to "I'll be at your place at 8. I want you to do me in the backside before I say goodbye forever. Hurry home and get ready to screw babe. I'll tell them I have to run errands. Don't call or text back. I'll leave my phone at home in case they do. See you later, my future husband." After sending the text, Bill erased it and put the phone back in NY's purse. Little did Jason know that as soon as he walked in, 3 guys would ambush him, beat him up, and force him to resign via email. Then they would make him tell his landlord that he was moving out after drugging him. After drugging him, they'd clean out his apartment, remove the spike hams, and loot everything to make it look like he'd left. They'd wrap him up and take him away in a van, disappearing without a trace. Bill would keep it all under wraps, a secret he'd take to his grave, hidden from Lisa and Linda. Friday afternoon, after being served, Bill checked into a motel. He chuckled as he watched the evening news before dinner. One of the guys from Jason's place stopped by. He handed over the cameras and got paid. No words were necessary. He didn't reveal where Jason's body was buried. Saturday morning, Bill threw away his old phone, got a new one, and gave Lisa his new digits. Then he went over to Linda's place, where he spent all his time sorting and editing the video footage, blurring out Jason's face to avoid any connection. If Jason went missing, he crashed in the guest room and bonded with Linda's kid. From the final step of their plan, where an elderly couple from Seattle would buy the company, turned out to be Linda's relatives. No one on staff would lose their jobs. Monday Lisa called and said Nancy was on the hunt for him. They both had a laugh. Later Bill posted all the videos on a rogue site using a fake email. He sent the link to everyone they knew, even Nancy's brother-in-law. He stayed at Linda's for another 3 months until his divorce was finalized. They continued to date, but kept it PG. Linda made it clear, no touching until Bill was officially single. Bill agreed to keep his marriage vows until the end. Staying at Linda's had its perks. If there were any inquiries, Bill could say he was broke and staying at Linda's until he was back on his feet the day of the hearing. Nancy didn't show up at the court with the house and NY's car already taken away. And Bill being broke and staying at Linda's until he was back on his feet the day of the hearing. With Nancy gone and Bill broke and out of work, the judge quickly granted the divorce with no spousal support or division of assets. NY's lawyer did not argue against it. Later, their paths crossed in the hallway. "You're quite the strategist, Mr. Thompson," the lawyer remarked. "Am I?" Bill responded with a furrowed brow, then walked back to the present. "Dad, pay attention." "Oh, sorry, sweetie, what were you saying?" It's time for the father-daughter dance and everyone's watching. But you're not moving, my mind was somewhere else, princess. Bill took his daughter's hand, spun her around, and they began to dance to the music. Now I have to dance with your mother, Bill told Lisa, when the song ended, and I promised my little brother he'd be next, Lisa said with a smile. Bill approached Linda and asked her to dance. Later, Bill went to the bar and ordered a whiskey. Sitting down, his thoughts turned to a phone call he had received at home in his bedroom. Good morning, Mr. Thompson, I'm Dr. Henry Doza from Dallas, Texas. It's about your wife. What's wrong with my wife? Bill asked confused. She's in the next room right now. I mean Nancy Thompson. Bill hadn't heard that name in 5 years. He sank on the bed. Go on, doctor. I'm a psychologist and I'm treating my patient Nancy Thompson in her last days. Her last days? Yes, Mr. Thompson. Do you have a few minutes for me to explain the situation briefly? Yes, go ahead, said Bill, confused. Your ex-wife told me her life story from the time she was a teenager to the time she was a senior citizen. She said you were the only man she knew until she met Jason, a big mistake she regrets. She talked about planning the divorce and what happened after. She thinks you knew about the affair and set her up. She's resigned to losing you and your daughter because she knows she was in the wrong when she left town. When she left town, she only had $200. She wanted to get away from it all, especially after the videotapes of her affairs surfaced. She jumped on the first plane and ended up in Texas. She found work as a waitress in a CD bar on Interstate 20, mostly frequented by truckers. The owner gave her a cheap room in exchange for favors. After a year she became pregnant. After 1 year she became pregnant and had to have a risky abortion without proper medical care. Later the owner started forcing her to be close to the truckers for money. Some used protection but others didn't. By the time she went to the hospital she had severe STDs and AIDS. She is very sick and knows she is dying. Her last wish is to see you before she dies. She's dying. I'm really sorry to hear that, doctor. My daughter's getting married today. I'll call you next week. Don't wait too long. Mr. Thompson, here's my direct number. Hey, honey, easy on the drinks. You're driving us home later. Linda whispered. A few days later from his office, Bill called Dr. Doza to say he couldn't make the trip south due to his heavy workload. The doctor suggested Bill talk to Nancy on the phone. He transferred the call to her hospital ward where there was a cordless phone. A nurse was on duty. Bill, is this you? Nancy's voice was barely audible. Yes, Nancy, it's me. Oh, Bill, Nancy's voice broke into tears. I'm sorry, Bill, I'm really sorry for what I put you and our family through. Now I'm facing the consequences. I've forgiven you, Nancy. I've moved on with my life and I'm happy. After our divorce, I married an amazing woman and we have a son together. Lisa thinks of her as her mother and they have a great relationship. By the way, Lisa got married last Saturday. The wedding was beautiful and her mother made sure everything was perfect, and we're both looking forward to being called grandparents, Bill. He waited patiently until a frantic voice interrupted. Mr. Thompson, I'm sorry but I have to end this call, and the line went silent. Bill looked at the family photo on his desk and smiled to himself. He who laughs last laughs best, he muttered.